Shalom Aleichem, good morning. Welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime. Welcome to our dear guest, Rabbi Stern. We have big kavod to have a Magid Shir Daf Yomi with us. I want to dedicate this year to the Atzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosa, Emetz Hashem, and his family. And we jump into the Parsha and some Inyan de Yoima. Not going necessarily according to the right order in the Parsha. We're starting with the Makkah of the Arbe, the locust. The Pasuk says, "V'chisa es ein haaretz, v'lo yuchal liros es haaretz." Won't be able to see the land. There'll be so many of them. V'achal es yeser hapeleta. It's going to eat everything around, whatever was left, and isheres lachem from the barat, from the hail. Rashi explains there are going to be so many of them, so much locusts around, you won't be able to see the land. Asks the Kli Yakar, who cares? So you won't be able to see the land. That's not part of the punishment. What's the punishment here? They're going to come and going to eat everything around. So you won't be able to see the land. That's like as if the Torah would describe to me, in Makas Dam, there's going to be so much blood, your vessels will be red. Wow. So I'll wash them off. What's the big deal? In the frogs, the land will look green. Who cares? Says more, the Kli Yakar. Even if you do want to say this for whatever reason, so first say the main part of the punishment, which is ve'achales yeser hapleita. It's going to eat everything around. And then add, and by the way, it's going to be so many of them, you won't be able to see the land. And therefore, the Kli Yakar is forced to say, not like Rashi. And Rashi said, there are going to be so many of them, you won't be able to see the land. Says the Kli Yakar, no. The Arbe won't be able to see the land. There are going to be so many of them. And therefore, because they won't be able to see the land, what's going to happen? Yuma Ayin Daled, the Gemara says, a person who's blind is never satiated. When you can't see the food, you're never satiated and you want to keep on eating. That's part of the punishment. Since there are going to be so many of them, the locusts themselves won't be able to see the land. They're as if like blind, it's so dark, and therefore they're not going to stop eating, they're going to continue consuming everything around. And more it says, Umalu batecha, they're going to go into your homes. Why? Because they're not going to be able to see what's in the field. It's so dark, there's so many of them. Mimir, they're going to have to look elsewhere. They're going to come into your homes. So it's a description of the punishment. It's part of the punishment, and that's why it's written there. Yes, the Kli Yakar, but Lemaise, it doesn't say that they did go into the Egyptians' homes. He says, yeah, because Paro knew what's going on. There are going to be so many of them. He figured it out. They won't be able to see, and therefore they're going to be hungry. They're going to have to go to the homes. And therefore here, as opposed to all the other makos, it says, Vayemayer. Paro really fast called Moshe down. Come. Get this over. Do something about it. Why Vayemayer? It doesn't say this word in any of the other makos, because here he knew exactly what's going to happen. And therefore, Lemaise, the Arbe did not come into the Egyptians' homes. So during this Makkah, Paro says, "Ve'atiru la'Hashem Elokeichem, ve'yaser me'alai rak es ha'maves hazeh." This is deadly. Why did he use this language? It's maves, more so than in any other languages. Is this so bad, so terrible, more so than all the other Makos? So the Baal HaTurim, in this Makkah says, it says Vayanach. Twice we find this word in the Messiah, in the Tanakh, Vayanach. Vayanach regarding the locust, and regarding the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Le'avdil Vayanach Bayoim Hashvi. Says the Baal HaTurim Melamed, this comes to teach you that the locust rested on the Shabbos. 6 days they worked, they ate everything around. Shabbos, the locust doesn't work. Paro says, this smells like something religious. I don't like this makkah. It's a makkah smaves. It sounds like something religious. They don't work on Shabbos. We don't like it. And more than that, says the Lev Simcha, if my slaves, my workers will see that you don't have to work on Shabbos, this is really deadly. And therefore, only here he called it makkah smaves. But the Lev Simcha says, why was this really so terrible? We think the locusts rested on Shabbos. In other words, one day they don't work. It's the opposite. Because they rested on Shabbos, normally, nature of a locust is to jump from place to place. But since they rested on Shabbos, in other words, they stayed in one place for 24 hours, they consumed everything around. Normally, they jump from place to place, they leave some things behind. They don't consume everything because they're in a rush going to the next place. But since they rest in 24 hours in the same place, they will consume everything, total devastation, and that's even worse than during the 6 other days. And this is to them a measure for measure. Because Paro wanted to cancel Klal Yisrael's resting on Shabbos. He wanted them to work on Shabbos. Mida keneged mida, comes the locust and rests on Shabbos. But this resting will provide the utmost devastation to Paro's country. In Makas Choshech, Paro calls Moshe. Vayikra Paro el Moshe vayomer. Whoa, what happened to Aaron? In the previous Makkos, when he calls both of them. Vayikra le Moshe ule Aaron. Now suddenly, no more Aaron. Where did he go? Why did Paro call only Moshe? Kli Yaka. Paro heard that when Moshe was born, Chazal say, there was tremendous light in the house. He illuminated the whole house. Paro said, oh, this is a walking flashlight. I'll call Moshe. This is the Makkah of darkness. I need what do? I call a walking flashlight. Maybe that's the Sgula. Wherever there is dark, there will be a Moshe Rabbeinu. Therefore, I don't need that one. It only says about Moshe Rabbeinu when he was born. Tremendous light was there, and therefore he called the walking projector. Moshe Rabbeinu. A little serious now. Should Paro be punished? You're saying Pashut. Why is it so Pashut that Paro should be punished? HaKadosh Baruch Hu hardened his heart. And if that's the case, he took away his B'chira Chofshis. If you are programmed to do the good thing, you shouldn't be rewarded. If you're programmed to do something wrong, why should you be punished?
He went overboard. He did more.
He crossed the line.
He was bad the whole time. This was just continuing in
Great. So from that point on, where he crossed the line, whoa, you got carried away here. And from that point on, when he hardened his heart, from that point on, he should not be punished. At least for that. To that, you agree with me or no? Even then, no. But then he's a computer. He's a programmed machine to do bad. Why should you punish him?
And it has consequences. We do something, and others continue because of what we did. We get reward or punishment for what we did. So
from that point, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu hardens his heart, and from that point on, for his own actions, is he responsible?
Yes, because he caused the hardening the heart.
So for that, he will be punished.
Right.
But when you change him into a computer, into a robot, should he be punished?
But he caused it.
So for that, he will be punished. But from that point on, why should he be punished? Most understand that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu hechbid es libo, he hardened his heart, it means he took away B'chira Chofshis. And from that point on, he in fact is like a robot. But comes the Ibn Ezra and the Reishis Chochma and others and say, no, that's not the case. How do we understand the Ibn Ezra? Chagiga Daf Tesla Amud Aleph, comparable sugya in Yerushalmi in Chagiga Perek Beis Aloch Aleph, we learn about Elisha ben Avuya. Elisha ben Avuya was a Tana. Tana, he knows everything. But he goes off. Why does he go off? Because he heard a bas kol from Shamayim saying, everyone can do tshuva except you. We're not interested in you. Shuvu banim shoyvevim chutz me'acher. We don't want your tshuva. So since he heard that bas kol, what is a bas kol? Kodesh Baruch Hu speaking. So therefore he said, since I'm not going to that word, so let me just enjoy myself in this world. Makes a lot of sense. What do you want from him? What's the time on Elisha ben Avuya? You heard a bas kol from Shamayim. The taina is, Elisha ben Avuya was a Tana. And it's as if he sees a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Is as if 95% Yetzer HaTov and 5% Yetzer Hara. When you're so immersed in Torah, and you see the beauty, the glory of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you as if don't have a Yetzer Hara. In order to increase and bring you back to the point of 50% Yetzer Tov, 50% Yetzer Hara, because that's how we have to live. Otherwise, we should not get rewarded or should not be punished. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to give Elisha ben Avuya a challenge from the land of challenges. What is that? A bas kol from Shamayim. Will you believe this bas kol? Oh, I'm not going to the world to come. Let me enjoy in this world. Or will you understand that it's just a challenge to bring you back to the B'chira Chofshis of 50-50? Elisha ben Avuya made a big mistake. And he listened to the bas kol and he assumed, oh, well, he didn't realize it's a challenge. The same thing happened to Paro. Paro saw the hand of Hashem. Unbelievable open miracles. Every time Moshe Rabbeinu says something, it's fulfilled. Mamish, open miracles in front of his eyes. He as if is forced to do the right thing. When you're forced to do the right thing, you should not be rewarded. So what does the Kodesh Baruch Hu do in order to bring him back to the Bechira Chofshit of 50-50? At this point, it's 85-95% Yetzer Tov. He sees the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So Kodesh Baruch Hu hardens his heart, and at that point, he only brings him back to 50%. And now, when he does the wrong thing, every single time, he should be punished. Because he's only at 50%. That's what the Ibn Ezra explains. That's what the Reishis Chochmah explains, and others as well.
But there is a place where a person loses his Bechira Chofshit.
I'm sorry?
A person, when he does an affair, Shoneh Ba'avera, then he goes to a point where he loses his Bechira Chofshit.
He doesn't lose his Bechira Chofshit. It's as if Na'ases lo keheter. That's the language of the Gemara. As if it becomes, you can do whatever you want, but it's this, as if Na'ases lo keheter. Why? Because the first time one sins, he thinks lightning will strike him from Shamayim. And when it doesn't happen, he says, oh, well, I guess I can do it. But he still has Bechira Chofshit. It's just when you go after the Yetzer seduces you to continue more, but you don't lose your Bechira Chofshit.
So there was hardening of the heart to make it.
Only to bring him back to 50-50. Because when he sees the stretched arm of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you see open miracles in front of your eyes, you're almost forced to believe. It's the reverse, or similar to Elisha ben Avuya. Elisha ben Avuya is almost forced to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He is a Tana. He knows everything. So in order to harden his heart, as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings a tremendous challenge to hear a baskel from Shemayim. With that explains the Ben Ish Chai. In Psochim Pei Vav we learn, Kol ma sheyomar lecha Baal Habayis, aseh. Chutz, mitzeh. Whatever the balabos tells you, you have to do. When you're hosted by someone, he tells you to do something, you better do it. Except if he tells you, leave. The Sfas Emes over there in the Gemara says, where'd they get it from? Where did Chazal get this from? It says, Kor L'Alocha, Shulchan Aruch Siman Kuf, Ayin in Orach Chaim. This comes from the Gemara in Gittin Nun Vav Nun Zayin with the story of Kamtza and Bar Kamtza, because the last time a person did go out what he was forced to by the host, what happened? Churban Beis HaMikdash. So whatever the Balabos tells you, you do, except when it tells you Tzeh. The Ben Ish Chai has a beautiful interpretation there. What is Tzeh? Rashi Tevos, Tzolche Ishto. Everything the Balabos tells you, you do, except when it tells you to do Tzolche Ishto. That's where it stops. But the Ben Ish Chai also explains, the Ben Yada and others explain as well. Who is this referring to? It's not referring to your host. The real host. Kol ma sheyomar lecha Baal Habayis, he's the only one, the true Baal Habayis, the Balabos HaKadosh Baruch Hu, aseh, everything he does. Everything he tells you, you should do, except chutz, mitzeh. Even if you hear a baskel from Shemayim saying, tzeh, get out of this world. In other words, do whatever you want, like Elisha ben Avuya. That you don't have to listen to. That's where it stops. And therefore, when the Egyptians come and they say, what do you want from us? We just want to fulfill the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who promised Avraham Avinu, Ger yeh zarcha be'eretz lo lahem va'avadum ve'inusam 400 shana. Your seed will be foreigners, strangers in a foreign land. There will be slaves there for 400 years and they will torture them. We are just executing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will. What do you want from us? HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't say in what land it's going to be. It could be in Spain, could be in Germany, could be anywhere. Who said it's going to be the Egyptians? Who said it has to be you? They chose to use their Bechira Chofshis in the wrong way, and therefore they will be punished. Paro decided to do the same. His heart was hardened only to bring him back to 50-50, and he chose to do the wrong thing, and therefore he will and should be punished. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Paro, "V'gam mikneinu yelech imanu lo tisha epasa." We will take our animals with us as well. Why? Ki mimeno nikach lavod et Hashem Elokeinu. Because Pashtus, we understand, we need the animals to bring sacrifices. But, some explain. Eruvin daf kuf amud beis, the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan taught, Ilemale lo nitna Torah. If Torah wasn't given, what would we have done? Where would we learn? Hanhagas Toivus, Midas Toivus ve'yesharos. So we wouldn't have a mitzvah of shatnez, you wouldn't have other mitzvahs, but where would we go looking to know how to conduct ourselves? Says Rabbi Yochanan, if Torah wasn't given, we would learn tznius from a cat, gezel from an ant. We would learn not to steal from ants. And arayos, we would learn from a dove, from a yoina. Es the Kiddush Harim. What's so special about the ant? It doesn't steal. Mefarshim explained it doesn't steal from its friends. Shh, what a tzadekis. So where does the ant get everything that it has? From us. He goes to other people's fields and takes. What is tzedekis? It doesn't steal from his friends, but those people who are not its friends, no problem. And therefore, instead of reading it the way we read it, says the Kiddush Harim, it's not, if Torah wasn't given, we would look in nature, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu created all kinds of things in nature, like an ant that doesn't steal. No! You know what we would have done? Oy vey! We would have had to look at an ant and learn from it not to steal. Oy vey! Baruch Hashem, Torah was given. And now we know that it's not like the ant. And now we know that we're not allowed to steal, whether it's your friend or whether it's somebody that you're not crazy about. Baruch Hashem, Torah was given, because otherwise we would learn. Unfortunately, stealing from an ant, that would be terrible. Because that would mean you wouldn't steal only from your friends, but somebody you're not crazy about, you would go around and steal. Baruch Hashem, there is a Torah in the world. Shimuna Rabbi Yisai Dayani Mumchim. Question. There was a guy who, while he was in yeshiva, at one point he embarrassed his friend in a very, very, very harsh way in front of all the chavirim. They left yeshiva, they all got married, this one went to live here, and this one went to live here. They're scattered all over. And this guy has all kinds of tzaros, all kinds of things that are going on in his life, and he does cheshbon hanefesh. And he realizes, there's one thing I didn't fix. I never asked mechila from this guy. I embarrassed him in such a disgusting way in front of everybody. Never was meichel me. It's probably because of that. So he traveled to see his friend, and he came over and he says, please be meichel me. And the guy says, I'm sorry, I can't. You embarrassed me in front of all the guys in class. The halacha is, if you embarrass someone publicly, you have to ask mechila publicly. If you want me to be meichel you, gather all our friends and ask mechila in front of all of them, and then I'll forgive you. The guy says, you're kidding me? This happened in New York. One of our chaverim is in California. 3 of them are in Israel. 2 went to England. 1 in Florida, 1 in Chicago, 1 in Miami, 5 in New York. Are you kidding me? It's going to cost an arm and a leg. I have to purchase airline tickets for all the guys. There's 30 guys in the class. You know what we're talking about? He says, you want me to be moichel you? Gather all the friends. He said, no Zooms. This is a year and a half before Zoom came about.
Make a class. Does
he have to?
Make a class reunion.
Class reunion was just last week. The next was in 25 years from now. He needs mechila today.
Zoom would be okay?
If the guy is willing to be mechila, why not? But there is no Zoom. Many of the guys don't have Zoom. They're sitting in yeshiva, they're learning, they don't have Zoom. They don't know what Zoom is. Does he have to spend money? That's the shayla. Does he have to spend money in order to bring all of the guys over to ask mechila the way he embarrassed his friend? Rabbi Yisai, Dayanim, Mumchim, what do you say?
No. I think he just has to.
You say no?
No.
Why not? Yavaraya?
You have to ask mechila 3 times.
That's when you embarrass him mano a mano. One-on-one, you go to ask mechila. He doesn't want to be more after 3 times. He is called cruel. But this is a different type of mechila. He embarrassed him in front of people. He has to ask mechila in front of other people.
Can you do over the phone with one at a time?
Don't think it works. It's not the same. It's not the same. To open your mouth in front of all the guys, everybody's laughing when he says that, young guys, everybody to be in the same room and to say, we hear you, yeah, and the guy will see, wow, the guy is willing to spend so much money and to do this for me. You know what, I'm going to be moichelim. Does he have to bring all the people over or not?
No choice, has he?
No choice. So he has to.
Only if he wants mechila.
I'm sorry?
Only if he wants mechila.
He wants mechila. What are you saying?
You say it's, there's no chiyuv, but if he wants to...
No chiyuv.
No. Chiyuv, no, but it's up to him if he wants to be left with a stain. I mean, there's
It's a big stain. Big stain. How big of a stain is it? How big of a stain is it? Gemore. Soita daf yud. Bochos mem gimel. B'metzia nun ches. Noyach lo le'adam. You'd rather jump into the fire and not embarrass your friend. Probably it's not a little stain. This is a big tear in the garment.
He's ready to be burned.
If someone asks 3 times mechila, then he is...
That's when you embarrass your friend and you go to appease him. And you ask 3 times, and the guy says, I don't want to listen to you. He is now called cruel, the person who was embarrassed. But this is a different type of a situation. He embarrassed in front of other people. He's supposed to ask mechila in front of other people. This mechila of one-on-one doesn't work. Unless the guy wants to be appeased. But he doesn't have to.
I would say he does. When Chana, she was taken,
Tamar.
she was ready to be
That's where we learn it from.
She was gonna.
That's where Chazal deduce that one should rather jump into the fire. It should be easy for him. Noach lo la'adam. Than to embarrass one publicly. So you're saying, yeah? How much money do you want to spend on this? Do you know how many tickets? He's gonna have to put him up somewhere in New York. Also, it's not just the tickets.
She was ready to be burned.
True.
I have a solution, but it's
What's the solution?
that you can call them up one at a time.
Not gonna help. You did it in front of many people. You have to ask the mechina in front of many people. One-on-one, it's not the same type of embarrassment.
It wasn't embarrassed. She said that she's pregnant.
Right.
With someone. She should be burned alive.
Right.
All right.
That's where Chazal learned this idea that you should rather jump into the fire and not embarrass someone publicly. This question was asked to the Igos Moshe. Igos Moshe said, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Get tickets for everyone. I don't care where they are. Why? Think about it. If someone Khalila ran over a kid and the judge says, you're going to go to jail for, 55 years. He wouldn't spend that money. He wouldn't spend that money. This is worse. He's not going to jail. We just read the language of the Gemara. You should rather jump into the fire, not jail, to jump into the fire than embarrass someone publicly. So why is it not counted as one of the three cardinal sins? Chazal's language is, that means it's a yeharek ve'al yavo, but we know there's only three. Gilu yarayos, shvichus damim, and avodah zara. Why isn't it the fourth one? Don't embarrass someone publicly. So Rabbeinu Yonah, Tosfos, they all take it literally. Rabbeinu Yonah says literally, better jump into the fire than to embarrass someone publicly. The Tosfos says because this is included within the first three. This is avak ritzicha. It's an accessory as if to shvichus damim. So it is counted as one of the three. What do you want? If this is not a big enough Kiddush, put your seatbelt on for this one. Shalas Teshuvos Binyan Tzion. Siman Kuf Ayin Beis writes, if you can save yourself from death by embarrassing a gadol, or even embarrassing a katan who understands what embarrassment is, in front of two other Jews, you should rather be moiser yourself to die and not to embarrass someone publicly. Mamish unbelievable. Minchas Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Chelek Aleph Siman Zayin writes, he brings the different Shittos Rishonim, and most Rishonim understand it literally, except the Meiri. The Meiri says, derech tzachus, derech haflaga, derech he'ara, as if they exaggerated. Chazal wanted to show you how severe it is to embarrass someone publicly, but that lemaisa that you have to give over your life. But he says, since everybody else, other than the Meiri, explain it literally, if Shlomo Zalman Auerbach writes, tzarich iyun, how come you wouldn't be allowed to violate Shabbos to save a person from embarrassment of truth? And how much more so if somebody is lying and embarrassing him, you should be allowed to violate Shabbos. Because we violate Shabbos to save a life, and this is compared to saving a life or to taking away a life. L'choira, one should be allowed to violate Shabbos. Mamish unbelievable. What's the connection to this parsha? You should all be asking, what's the connection? Great child, right? Great child. What's the connection to the parsha? Moshe Rabbeinu was embarrassed by Paro. Paro said, they want to see your face again. Get out! Moshe Rabbeinu responds and says, not only will you see my face, you're going to be running after me. You and all your slaves that you said this in front of them. V'yardu kol avadecha eile elai. And you're going to bow down to me. And you're going to say, please, can you please leave my country? Ask the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. Moshe, did you check the Tudat Zehut of each one of the slaves? And how do you know no one of these guys is a Bechor who's going to die in the 10th plague? How do you know? Who told you? And don't tell me he used Nevuah. He looked at his skin with the extra, this guy is not a Bechor, this guy is not a Bechor. All these Avadim will come escorting you. Who told you? Says the Or Chaim HaKodesh, the deen is, if he was embarrassed in front of all these guys will have to come back with Pharaoh so Paul can ask Mechila in front of all these guys. That's where the Egos Moshe took out the answer to this question. It wasn't a nevuah. It wasn't an x-ray. Moshe Rabbeinu saw, if he embarrassed me, of course the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to keep them alive, even though some of them may be Bechorim. So this guy can ask Mechila in front of all these guys that he embarrassed me in front of.
Who says he deserved the Mechila? What does he have to give him?
It's not that he deserves a Mechila. Moshe Rabbeinu deserves a Mechila. And he has to teach a lesson to Klal Yisrael, to the world to come, to all the generations to come.
Do we see the Mechila in the Torah?
I'm sorry?
Do we see the Mechila in the Torah?
He runs after Moshe. He runs in his pajamas in the middle of the night, Chazal say, and all the kids driving crazy. Where's Moshe? He's over there. He starts running to the right. No. He's over there. He was embarrassed. That's the midah keneged midah. You were embarrassed, Moshe. Now you're going to be embarrassed.
Why was it a problem for them? They were not Jewish. They didn't have any Mechila or anything like that.
Busha to Moshe Rabbeinu. You're embarrassed in front of a lot of people. All these people have to be there when you ask Mechila. The stipler once came to somebody's bar mitzvah. He wasn't close with the family. He suddenly appeared. And everybody wondered, what is the stipler doing here? And the stipler explained, 5 years ago, when this kid was 8 years old, it was Yom Kippur, I saw him in the back, sitting and learning with a big Gemara. So I came over and I said, kid, it's not the time to learn. Now is the time to daven, Yom Kippur. Then I walked backwards and I saw, it wasn't a Gemara. It was a big sitter, big machzor. So I came and I apologized. I said, I'm sorry. I thought you were learning. I realized you were davening. I'm sorry. And the kid said, no problem. But the stipler held that a mechila avakatan is not a mechila. So he wrote for himself in his calendar, in 5 years' time, go to his bar mitzvah and ask mechila when he's after 13. There's a machloikis whether mechila avakatan works or not. Obviously the stipler was machmir on this, like on everything else. And therefore he came to him 5 years later to ask a mechila from a 13-year-old. Reb Gershon Edelstein, Zatzal, told the following Maaseh that he heard from Rebbetzin Chadash, and that when the Chafetz Chaim used to go from place to place to sell his Sfarim, sell Mishnah Berurah and Shmiras HaLashon. So once he came to a certain town and it was very late at night. He didn't find a place to stay that night, so he had nothing to do. He went into the shul and he lay down on a bench and he fell asleep. He didn't know that this bench belonged to a very rich guy. That's where he used to daven, this Makom Tefillah, one of the Gvirim in town. And in the morning, when the guy comes, he sees the Chafetz Chaim on his bench. He says, Chutzpahnik! You had to pick my bench to be on the whole night? Chutzpahnik, get out of here! So he says, I'm sorry, I didn't know, sorry. And he moved to the back. After davening, everybody realized, the Chafetz Chaim is in shul davening with us! So they all came over, and the rich guy saw the big commotion over this guy. He comes over, it's the guy that I yelled at, why are you? This is the Chafetz Chaim! So he comes over and says, Rebbe, please be moiche me. I didn't realize who you are. I'm so sorry. Chafetz Chaim says to him, don't worry. I am moichel my kavod. But you didn't just embarrass me. You embarrassed me because you embarrassed a poor guy. To you, all the poor guys, they're not worth anything. And therefore, I can be moichel my own honor, but I can't be moichel on the honor of the poor people. He says, Rebbe, what should I do? He says, well, midah keneged midah. No one hosted me here. That's why this poor guy, me, had to sleep on your bench. You should open up a house for guests, for aniyim in this town. He said 5-6 words. I don't know what he said to the Chafetz Chaim because it cost him a lot of money. That was his tikkun. That's what midah keneged midah. How careful we have to be.
Do we have to pay for the trouble? The case, it has to pay for the trouble for the people.
That's what the Egos Moshe told him, yeah. Terrible. החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים ראשון הוא לכם לחודשי השנה. The Jewish fellow, an astronaut, became a Baal Tshuva. One Motzi Shabbos, he goes out with all the guys in shul and he says Kiddush Levana. And then he realizes what did he saying, and he says, well, wait a second, why am I saying this? In Kiddush Levana we say, Keshem sheni yoked kenegdech. Is that true? I can. What do we say? Just like I'm dancing here, moon is up there and I can't touch you. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. In fact, he says, I'm trained to do that. I can't touch the moon. What do you mean you can't touch the moon? Yes, you can. It was shaykh years ago, hundreds of years ago. Today you can't touch the moon? Of course you can. The Pasuk says in Tehillim, Doiver shkarim lo yikon the neged einai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like people who lie. How can you say, yes I can. Can you say it? Should we erase it from the Sidurim?
From standing here on earth, it's not possible to do it. There is a way to do it.
There is a way.
But if I'm jumping, I can't reach you. I can't do it. I can do it in a rocket ship, but I can't do it when I'm here. So that's what it means. It doesn't mean I can't do it.
According to what you're saying, first of all, you didn't bring me a raya. I like your svara, but there's no raya. And second of all, according to what you're saying, so if you are on the moon, you won't be able to say it. What if you're going out on a mission to the moon? Will you be able to say it? Don't tell me, you're touching it.
Then I agree. Yes.
Unless you're going to give me a raya. Aboisai, should we erase it from the Sidurim? They're not crazy about erasing things from the Sidurim, right? I also don't like it. But how can you say something that L'choira isn't true?
You can't touch it physically with your hands.
Why not? If I'm there?
Are you allowed? No, I mean, with the actual finger, when you actually take clothes off to touch the middle. I don't know, you're allowed to touch it with a glove, your body can't actually touch it.
It can. You may not live for very long right after, but we need a raya. I like your svaros. We need a raya. Gitin daf pei daled. Chazal say, a person gives a get to his wife. Look at the beauty of Torah. You go find a get and you get an answer for the moon. What's the connection? A person gives a get to his wife and makes a condition. Al menas, in order sheta'ali larakia, that you go to the heavens, go touch the sky. What do we say? It's a get or no? No. She can't, right? Says the Bira ben Taimah, the get is valid, the condition is cancelled. He's not saying things to upset her. Obviously, something that you can't fulfill is not relevant. So we, as if, are ignoring what he said. We cancel the condition, and the get is valid. You see, it's considered as if it's not relevant. The Tosfos read and the Rif add that this will be so when he says to her, this is your get, al menas, in order, shetifrechi ba'avir, that you'll fly in the air. Asks Gilyoinei Hashas, but there is a medrash Chazal bring. Tosfos brings it in Avodah Zarah, Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, brings from Yerushalmi, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took Alexander Mokton, Alexander the Great, and he took him out of this world, and he saw the whole world is round, like a ball. And by the way, this is the first source. It's such a shame that the scientists from all over the world don't come and read our material, because we have the answers. They used to think the world is flat. They used to think the world is square, and all kinds of other mishigasim. The Zohar HaKodesh already says clearly that the world is round. Yerushalmi says it. Tosfos in Avodah Zarah Mem Aleph Amud Aleph quotes this Yerushalmi. We know for many years that the world is circled. How do we know it? Because Alexander Mukdon, Alexander the Great, was taken out of this world, and he saw. So don't tell me it's impossible to be poreach ba'avir, to fly in the air. You see, it's possible. Says the Gilyoni Hashas, exactly what you said. It's impossible to do it without the rocket ship, without some kind of a mean. In other words, with my legs to jump all the way, tifrechi ba'avir, to jump into there, it's not shaykh. And therefore we ignore the condition that he made. The get is valid. So too, when we say, Kishem shadi roket kenegdir, just like I'm jumping here, and I can't touch the moon, that means without any rocket ships or anything that will take me to the moon, and therefore we don't have to change our Sidurim, Baruch Hashem. But according to that, what about a person who is standing on the moon? Can he say it? Don't tell me he does it. He's standing on the moon.
He's another problem.
Nusach, but if it's not right,
He's not seeing the Levana.
No Zman Kiddush Levana.
That's a shaila the Ben Ish Chai deals with, and others, not about Kiddush Levana per se, but bichlal, times. How does he keep Shabbos?
Right.
The Ben Ish Chai wants to say, when you go out of our world,
You count every 7 days.
everything goes according to the clock of Yerushalayim. Because in Tanis Dafei we learn that there's a Yerushalayim Shel Mata corresponding to Yerushalayim Shel Mala. So above, over there, everything goes according to the clock of Yerushalayim. So whenever they say Kiddush Levana in Yerushalayim, this guy in the moon will have to say Kiddush Levana, there's no problem.
But he's not seeing the Levana within the solar system. He's standing there.
And therefore? But the language you're saying is Keshem Shani Oket Kinegdech Ve'eni Yochol Goya Bach. Yes, I can.
You never need to say it. Like you're saying, you don't see the moon. There's a lot of halachic pronunciation.
You don't see the moon? Of course you're seeing it. You're standing on it.
You're not within the solar system, not within the sky.
Does it say Keshem Shani Oket Kinegdech and I'm in the solar system? Does it say that?
But that's
What nusach do you daven?
no, but the whole thing is, I'm looking up into the sky to see the wonders of Hashem, right? Right? If I'm standing with it, it's a different.
Don't you think you see the marvels of this world, the miracles of HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you're standing there?
Maybe he looks at the earth and says, keep the child.
If you find a new nusach like that, it'll be great. Not familiar with a nusach like that.
Where you jump to the moon, is that where? How do you say that if you're on the moon?
Yeah.
Should you say this or not when you're on the moon? You're saying, just like I can't touch you, yes I am, I'm touching the moon, I'm standing on the moon. So Shalosh Yeshuvas Mishneh Halacha says, of course you say it. What's the difference? Where you are is a nusach, that's what you say. But Sefer Tzura Levana says, I think you shouldn't say it for two reasons. What's the reason you're saying it down here? Because you see the newness of the moon. It almost disappears. You don't see schatshus. You don't see anything new when you're there. It's the same. If it's the same, you're not excited about the newness of the moon, and therefore you shouldn't say it. That's what Turat Salvana says. And there's a condition. In Shulchan Aruch Chaim Siman Taf Chaf Bav, that's the halachos of Kiddush HaChodesh. In Seif Aleph, the Shulchan Aruch writes, the Rema writes, that you have to benefit from the light. Nehenin le'oira. And therefore the Mishnah Berurah over there says, in Seif Kotan Gimel, that if it's covered with a cloud and you can't benefit from the light, you can't say Kiddush Levana today. So over there, you're standing on that which illuminates lichoira, but you're not benefiting from that light. And therefore he says, Tzarich iyun, if you can say it when you're on the moon. Next time before you go to the moon, ask a shayla. Not so pashut.
Is there a moon ra?
You don't have to have a moon rav, you have to have a rav who will answer moon questions.
There's another question. What if in the future when we're going to live in the moon, which bracha, what bracha?
I'm not so sure you're going to live there.
What?
I'm not so sure you're going to live there.
No, not me, but you know.
But what's the difference? If you can say it, you can say it, whether you live there or you visit.
It's alright, there'll be a
Look
couple
at
of
the
houses
Levana.
there.
Mistama, there is already. So when you say Kishem Sheniyoket Kinegdech, the Bayer Heitev there in Taf Chavav, in Taf Reish Beis, Seif Kotan Dalet brings a tremendous thing from the Or Chadash. There was a Yid that the Goyim captured and they said, we're going to kill you. He says, wait a second, fine, do whatever you want, but allow me the final request before one is executed. He's always allowed the final request. And they said, what do you want? Steak? Chips? What do you want? He says, no, just allow me to do one more mitzvah. I want to do Kiddush HaChodesh. He said, okay, fine. He goes outside and he looks at the moon and he starts saying, Kishem Shani Oket Kinegdech, and he skips like we do. And as he said that and he jumped, a wind came, swept him away, and he was saved. The Bayer Heitev continues and says, anyone who says Kiddush Levana will not die that month. I know some people that actually do die, even though they do say Kiddush Levana. How is it possible? The Kaf HaChaim explains, will not die, Misa Meshuna. A strange death that month, he is saved from. What's the connection? In the psukim, there's a series of psukim that we say in this Kiddush Levana that seems so not connected and not relevant to Kiddush HaKodesh. You start saying, Kishem Sheniyoket Kinegdech, just like I'm jumping in front of you and I can't touch you. Okay, that's relevant. Tipor Aleya V'Masa V'Facha, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kam, Shalom Aleichem. Simen Tov. What's the connection? The Ponovitch Rav explained the following. The Romans decreed that we're not allowed to sanctify the new moon. Because when we do, we have a Jewish calendar. And when we don't, Yiddishkeit collapses. If you can't sanctify the new moon, you're going to eat chametz on Pesach, Chalila. You're not going to fast on Yom Kippur. Without the Jewish calendar, you have nothing. And therefore they decreed that no one can come to Beis Din to testify that they saw the new moon. But the Jews, realizing that without a new moon, we don't have a calendar and we don't have Yiddishkeit, they were moisa nefesh. What did they do? Sometimes they disguised themselves as Roman soldiers. So imagine, we're in the Beis Din, we're the Dayanim. And suddenly, somebody knocks on the door. So you look through the hole in the doors. Hey, a Roman soldier! So you start saying, as the Dayan, Kishem shani roked kenegdech, just like I'm dancing here in front of you. But you can't touch me because there's a door separating between us. So too, all my enemies will not be able to do anything to me. Kach lo yuchlu kol oivai lingoya bi lera. But then, yeah, I can dance and do whatever I want here, but you can't touch me. So too, your enemy, my enemies won't be able to touch me. But then the guy continues to knock. You have to open the door. So you open the door, and now it's really very, very scary. And you say, "It should be like stone. Should not be able to do anything to me." In yesteryears, when two Jewish people met, they don't have a kippah. You don't know one is Jewish. How did they identify? What was the code? You used to say to your friend, "David Melech Yisrael Chayvekayim." Ah, so you're Jewish like me. So this Roman soldier, it's not a Roman soldier, he's a Yid. He comes into the Beis Din and he says, David Melech Yisrael Chayvekayim. In other words, I'm Jewish like you. So all the Dayanim say, oh, Shalom Aleichem. And he says, Aleichem Shalom. And then everybody there says, Simen Tovu, Mazel Tov, Yeh Lanu L'chol Yisrael, because this month as well, we will have Kiddush HaChodesh. And then everybody together bows down and says, Aleinu L'shabeach L'Adon HaKol. We have to say thank you to Ribbon Shel Olam that allows the Mesorah, the Jewish calendar, to continue even this month. There was a guy who was very, very makpid in mitzvahs. Very, very makpid. But not so makpid and mitzvahs ben Adam Lachaveiro. Between man and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything. All the hidurim, the Raisa de Rabbana. When it came to mitzvahs between him and especially his wife, that's where it stops. So there was one month where he wasn't able to do Kiddush HaChodesh. He wasn't able to do Kiddush Levana. And it's the last night, a lot of clouds, and at 10 o'clock he says to his wife, listen, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. You're staying up, and just look up. When you see the moon coming out, come and wake me up. Chazal say, a woman that does whatever her husband asks. What can she do? She stays up. Moshe went to sleep, and his Rebbetzin is out there, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 2:30, finally! The moon is slowly coming out between the clouds. So she runs to her husband, Moshe, get up, go, sanctify the new moon, Moshe, be Mekadosh Levana, Moshe. You try talking to Moshe at 2:30 o'clock in the morning, no one to talk to. Moshe. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. After 20 minutes, what did you say? Moshe, the moon is out there, it's waiting for you to sanctify it. Go and be Mekadosh Levana. Oh, okay. He starts stretching his arms and he slowly gets up. He washes his hands, he gets dressed. And finally at 3:05, he's out there. He looks, where's the moon? There's no moon. And he comes back to the house and he starts yelling at his wife, why you wake me up? What are you doing, you fool? You're such a fool, what you do? And his wife looks at him and says, you know, Moshe, I am a fool. The Levana, the moon, is so much smarter than me. When the moon realized you're coming to sanctify it, it ran away. When you came to sanctify me under the chuppah, I stayed. You're right, I am a fool. The moon is much smarter than me. That's why we say in davening, Le'olam yehei adam yireh shamayim. B'pashtus, should have yiras shamayim. Le'olam yehei adam. First be a mensch, and then do yiras shamayim. Be a mensch between you and your wife, between you and your fellow, and then look for all the hidurim, yiras shamayim, midei Rabbanan u'midei Oraisa. There's a segula associated with Kiddush Levana, coming from the Ya'ar was Dvash, Yonasan Eibshitz. Sefer Tami HaMinhagim brings it. Reb Chaim said that his father used to do it, a stipler. If you have toothache, or one of your family members, or if you want to avoid having problems with your teeth, after you say, you insert and you say, and I shouldn't have any teeth ache, not me and not my family. The stipler used to do it. It works. Try it at home. Not at home, actually outside the shul when you say it. You say it 3 times after each one of those stanzas. You say, you add, and I shouldn't have any teeth ache. I think it works in any language. The disciple said it in Hebrew. I'm assuming it works in other languages as well, but you can say it in Hebrew. And the Kaf HaChaim brings, I don't know.
What was it? Let me clarify. כנגדך, ואיני יכול לנגוע בך.
כך לא יוכלו כל לבד לנגוע בלי רע. You finish this and you add, ולא יהיו לי ולא למשפחתי שום כאבי שיניים. I should have any teeth, not me and not my family.
Don't stand next to the dentist when you say it. Don't stand next to the dentist when you say it.
The question is, should he say it or not? The Kaf HaChaim said there's a segula if one wants to find a shidduch. Segula for young men, for Bachun. And he writes, they should always make sure to say Kiddush Levana betzibur uvekavana, and that is a segula to find their shidduch. This was brought also by the Damascus Eliezer in the to the Baal Pele Yoetz. So a segula for a shidduch. A big Kiddush, for some reason I don't know why it's not known, I think, to most people. Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Tav Chavav in Kiddush Levana, umeyasher raglav. What does that mean, meyasher raglav? Says the Ben Ishchai in Shana Shniya in Vayikra Ois Chav Gimel, says the Yesod v'Shoresh HaAvoida, you have to stand like you stand in Shmoneh Esrei. Not only in Shmoneh Esrei, in Musaf, in Kiddush Levana, you have to stand with your legs straight, just like you stand in Shmoneh Esrei. We talked about the moon before. Are you even allowed to go to the moon? We assumed you're allowed to, and then what do you do when you say Kiddush Levana? Are you allowed to go to the moon? A guy who lives in Chutz La'aretz anyways, is he allowed to go to the moon? That means there's an Isu to go to the Shamayim, and that's Shamayim, that's Nayan Yareach. So Bichlal, you're not allowed to go, you're not allowed to jump, because you're as if closer to the Shamayim. What part of the Shamayim is to Hashem? The 7 heavens. Is one allowed to go to the moon? I'm guessing you were never asked to go to the moon, so you didn't deal with this. Shal Shuvas Vayan Avraham says, why not? Why not? No problem. But Shal Shuvas Mishneh Halachos Chelek Vav Siman Reish Nutet thinks that there's a problem. He says it's an issue. Why? First of all, he says 2 technical problems. Sakana. Sakana of going there. It's not so simple. Remember what happened to Iran Ramon? These things can potentially be deadly. What's that?
You could say that about an airplane.
Mistama, there are more accidents with these expensive machinery. Mistama. So he says, first of all, it's derech sakana. If you'll tell me it's no sakana anymore, okay, so this is the way. But there's also sakana by being there, because there's no oxygen. And therefore you must keep that's what you said before, right? You can't touch, you have to use your glove. You can't touch it. You can't touch the moon itself. So he says, it's sakana. So he says, mashma from the poskim, that it will be a problem there only if there is a sakana. And if you eliminate sakana, we'll say these the spaceships, nothing happens to them. It's been 40 years already, nothing happens. And these suits that they have, no problem. There's another problem. Sefer Haredim, and the Mishnah Berurah brings him in Siman Tav Chavav, I think Seif Katan Yud Gimel, says one is not allowed to look at the moon. Not allowed to look at the moon. Is very, very machmir about it. And therefore the Shla HaKodesh says, and the Mishnah Berurah brings him, that when you say Kiddush Levana, don't look at the moon. Just before you say the bracha, look for a second, okay, the moon is out, I can say the bracha, and then look in your siddur. Don't look at the moon. If you're there, lo yimalet, you can't escape looking at the moon. It's an issue. If it's an issue to look at the moon, you can't go there. That's what the Mishneh Halachos says. I think it's a tremendous Kiddush. Not everybody agrees to what he says. And some say, it's a nice issue you just created, but we can't create new isurim that we don't find in Chazal.
What about all the mitzvahs that are defined by time? You can't do them properly because
we said before, according to the Ben Ishchai, and this question doesn't start on the moon. And I think I mentioned it last year at one point. I don't know if we went into the whole sugya, but this question starts about 400 years ago or so by the Tiferet Yisrael. Tiferet Yisrael, one of the commentaries on the Mishnah, is one of the main commentaries, and he says, I heard some people travel up north because they go fishing for big fish, and I understand that over there is no day and there is no night. 3 months out of the year there is no sun, and 3 months out of the year there is no moon. So what do you do when you get to a place like this? How can you keep Shabbos? When exactly are you going to put on tefillin? You're going to put on tefillin at night? You're going to say Havdalah during the day? What if you came there on Friday and now it starts for 3 months and you're going to be stuck on Shabbos for 3 months? Or can it be that you came on Wednesday and then it starts, and then there's not going to be a Shabbos for 3 months? Can it be? And we have 9 different opinions what one does in a place like this. For example, some suggest a very, very strange solution. That you go after the place you came from. Why is this strange? Because we're sitting at a table on Shabbos. You came from Japan, I came from Australia. You came from Yemen, and you came from 5 minutes away, the closest place where there is Shkia. So I'm going to do Avdallah, and time that you do Shkia, you do Kiddush. It's so strange. Some say you go after the closest point that there is Shkia. That point is probably, Shkia is only half an hour before, you have a half an hour or 45 minutes to do on Shabbos 3 meals, and you have to daven also 3 times, don't forget. Some say you go after the calendar and the time of Yerushalayim. All kinds of strange shittas. Lemaise, so the Ben Ish Chai brings, and that's what's relevant to your question, the Ben Ish Chai says everything goes according to the clock in Yerushalayim. Because when there is no clock, we go after the clock in Yerushalayim. Some say, you know what, in a place like this, you don't have to keep mitzvahs which are time-bound. You still can eat chazir, but time-bound mitzvahs is not relevant. And that's a very strange shita. Can it be that a yid can live somewhere without fulfilling Kodesh Baruch Hu's mitzvahs, and if he chooses to live there forever, so there is no Shabbos for him? Very, very strange shita. We find many, many shitas. But in a place where there is no clock, says the Ben Ish Chai, so use Yerushalayim's clock, because there's Yerushalayim Shel Mala corresponding to Yerushalayim Shel Mata at Tanis Daf Hey. So this mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh is the first mitzvah Klal Yisrael got as a nation. Why was this mitzvah zoiche to become the first mitzvah? There are many other great mitzvahs, right? Taras HaMishpacha, Yom Kippur, Shabbos, many other mitzvahs that lichoira to us seemingly seem a little greater than Kiddush HaChodesh.
Yeah, mitzvahs before to marry a woman, to marry a Bereshit.
Pu Urevu was not said as a collective to Klal Yisrael.
That's what Dafkat Klal Yisrael.
As Klal Yisrael form, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what, let's start with Kiddush HaChodesh. Why Kiddush HaChodesh? It's mitzvah Daled and Sefer HaChinuch. It's the 4th mitzvah. The 3 mitzvahs before that, Girana, Shepu, Urevu, but that was said to individuals. There is, to Avraham Avinu and to his seed, but there is no Jewish nation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu talks to. Now he's talking to a nation as a nation. Let's start with Kiddush HaChodesh. Why? More than that, this is a testimony that HaKadosh Baruch Hu in fact gives us the Torah. The Pasuk says, Lo bashamayim hi, I'm giving you the Torah, that you will decree, you will be deciding how to conduct yourselves in this world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you tell us what to do and what no. Do's and don'ts. The Torah is full of them. So many restrictions, so many do's and don'ts. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, it's up to you. What does it mean it's up to us? Because if we made a little mistake and we sanctified the moon incorrectly, then I say you're eating chametz on Pesach, you're not fasting on Yom Kippur, correspondable type of Aveiros, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't mind. Whatever you decide, that's how it's going to be. It's a proof of Loi Bashamayim, I'm giving you the Torah. And it's important. You guys are going to decide how to handle this Torah. And that's the beauty of this mitzvah. But it's much more than this. From this mitzvah we learn Emunas Chachamim. If you don't trust the Chachamim, when they come and they say, this is the new month, Pesach is going to be in this and this date, Sukkot is going to be in this and this date, if you don't trust them, you have a problem. Michtav Meriyahu, Dessler, Chelek Aleph, page 77, writes a line I think we must learn by heart. He has a whole big article there about Emunas Chachamim, and he ends it by saying, listen close, it's unbelievable. Chesron hakaras ha'itbaslus le'umas raboteinu. If somebody doesn't nullify himself to our rabbis, zeu shoresh kol chatas. This is the root cause of every sin. Utchilas kol churban rachman al-itzlan. In the beginning of the end of devastation, rachman al-itzlan. And now listen what he ends. The reverse. The kol has chuyos. All the merits that you have doesn't make a difference what you do. Lo yishvu will not come close. Leumas shoresh hakol. Compared to the root of it all. Vehi emunas chachamim. What a sentence. Emunas chachamim, that's what it all hinges on. Why is it so important? How important is whatever chachamim say? When chachamim say something, it actually changes nature. What does it mean it changes nature? The Rashba brings The Shach brings this lahalocha in Yoredeh, Simen Kuf Pei Tes. If a woman has Veses HaChodesh, she always sees on Aleph of the month. What if Beis Din will add another day and will make it a Chodesh Maleh? That will change her seeing. And she, even though she was supposed to see now, because she sees after 30 days on the Aleph of the month, but it's not the Aleph of the month now. Now it's Lamed of the previous month. It will change nature, and she will see tomorrow. She will see Aleph on the Chodesh. Why? Because Chazal said it's Aleph. Chazal changes nature. Where does he get it from? A Yerushalmi. 3 places in Yerushalmi. In Sanhedrin, Perek Aleph Halacha Beis. In Edorim, I think Perek Vav Halacha Ches. And in Ksubis, also Halacha Perek Aleph Halacha Beis, Chazal say, a girl under 3 years old, if she had relations, her virginity will grow back. After 3 years old, it's not going to grow back. But, this is Chazal Yerushalmi, but if Chazal, let's say, added a month, it will come back. She's not 3 years old now. What are you saying she's 3? You thought she's 3, but Chazal decided today to add another month. So she's only 2 and 11 months in a week. She's not 3. It will change nature and it will grow back. Not to be believed. The Chassam Sofer uses this Yerushalmi and he says, how often do we do the mitzvah of Machotim Chezecher Amalek? How often do we read the Parsha of Amalek? Once a year. Why? Because you can remember something for 12 months. Says the Chassam Sofer Shkoyach, but what in a leap year like this year? It's going to be 13 months from the time you said Machotimche until you say it again. Yeah, but when Chazal add another month, so your nature changes and you can remember something for 13 months because Chachamim change nature. And therefore, Emunas Chachamim is so important, and the whole religion hinges on that, and that's why this mitzvah is the first mitzvah in the Torah.
What year?
No, but we read Parshas Zachor only once to fulfill the mitzvah. Once a year, right? For Purim. What's that?
When is the parasha itself?
That you can be yoytze, and according to some shittas, if you didn't hear the mitzvah when you were supposed to hear the mitzvah. When you hear it on Shabbos, in Kiseisa, when you read it, you're just reading it because it's part of the Pasha, but not to fulfill the mitzvah of Machotim Chezecher Amalek. That you do once a year. Why once a year? Because you can remember something for 12 months. But in a leap year, you can remember something for 13 months, says the Chassam Sofer. I think when one looks at the moon, you can get a lot of encouragement, a lot of motivation, and a lot of hope. The beginning of the month disappears, doesn't have any hope, and suddenly it comes back with a vengeance. And Klal Yisrael are compared to the moon. And that's why, again, we start with this mitzvah. This is the first mitzvah to Klal Yisrael, because no matter what's going to happen, throughout the exile, no matter where you're going to be, trials and tribulations that you will experience, look at the moon. And you are compared to the moon. And just like the moon always comes back, you will come back as well. Rabbi Tisyahu Salomon Zatzal, just passed away last month, in his Sefer, writes that he heard from Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, the Mashgiach, that a Holocaust survivor once came to him and he said to him, Rebbe, you were never going to believe and understand what we went through. He was 5 years in the camps. And the Mashgiach, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, asked him, where did you get the koichos hanefesh to deal with whatever you went through? And he said, you know, the Nazis, Yemach Shemam, took everything away from us. Everything. Not only our freedom, they didn't allow us to fulfill mitzvahs. Learn Torah, fulfill mitzvahs. But one thing they couldn't take away from us, and that is the moon. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says, what does that mean? So he said, when we walked, and sometimes we walked, and we walked, and we walked. But when we identified that there's a moon out there, we quickly yelled to each other, there's a moon. The moon is out. It's time to do Kiddush HaChodesh, because there's some of us that kept the calendar and knew what the date is. And we all held hands, and we said the bracha over the moon, and we said, Keshem Sheni Yoket Kenegdech, and we said, Shalom Aleichem, and this kept us going, because we saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control and not the Nazis. Because if the Nazis were really into control, they would take even the moon from us. But they couldn't. And from the moon, we got encouragement and hope that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world and not the Nazis. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, this will be over. And in fact, it was over. So when looking at the moon, we know that just like the moon is, Emetz Hashem, Asida lihischadesh, we are asidim lihischadesh kemoisa, we will be like the moon and we will rejuvenate and we come back. There's much more to share, but we have to answer two more things. Tefillin, riddle of the week. When do you use tefillin on Shabbos without putting them on? Do you put tefillin on Shabbos? No.
If someone lost, you can, I thought you can.
I'm not asking when can you put them on. Maybe I asked it in the past, and that's one out of three answers when you can actually put tefillin on Shabbos. One out of three answers. And they are, while you're at it. If you found tefillin somewhere and out of the field and you can't stay there the whole Shabbos, you can wear them derech malbush and you can bring them in. The other two answers.
Is it fire?
If there's a fire, you save the tefillin. Another two answers, that's like finding them. That's a remez the Gaon Mivina brings. But when do you actually put them on? You don't put tefillin on Shabbos.
You can put it on a gown.
What's that?
Put it on a gown. It's not yet Jewish.
Why would you want to do that?
He's learning how to be Jewish.
Shkoyach Tim, should have atzlacha. When does a Yid put on tefillin on Shabbos? 3 times.
With the brothers who died, no?
Ger, an arel, shemesu achav, machmas mila. There's a Yid who can perform bris milah. Why? 2 of his brothers already died. And in Yevamos Samech Dalet we learn that it's a sakana. And normally we go after chazaka 3 times, but in Yom sakana, like an isha katlanis, a lethal woman, and death caused from bris milah, we say 2 is enough to consider chazaka, and this guy will not mal. Says the Tumas Sadeshe, it's one of the Rishonim, the Beis Yosef brings him, but not la'alacha. Lemay says not la'alacha, but it is an opinion in the Rishonim that since we do not put tefillin on Shabbos because it's an ois, and we don't need it, because a Yid always has to have 2 oisers. So on Shabbos, you have the bris and you have Shabbos. Weekdays you have the bris and you have tefillin. But this guy who doesn't have a bris, he comes into Shabbos with only 1 ois. So he should put tefillin to have 2 oisers, 2 signs, as every other person has. Not halacha. I might say we don't pass on this, but it's an opinion. Third answer.
The desert.
A desert, or a chaim shin daled mem. I'm dafka saying shin daled mem and not what you would expect, shin mem and daled, because it's not a nice word. Over there, the Biur Halacha in the first seif brings, if a person is stuck in the desert somewhere and he doesn't know what day it is, he woke up and he has no clue, he's on a deserted island, he doesn't know where he is, what should he do? So he counts 6 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7th is Shabbos. It could be that it's a Tuesday, but he doesn't know. So what does he do with tefillin? He puts on tefillin every single day of the week. Because maybe today is Monday, maybe today is Wednesday. Even though the 7th day for him is a Shabbos, he still puts on tefillin, but not at the time of davening, because you can't do Tarte Desati. You're going to daven, Shabbos davening, and you're going to put tefillin on. So right after davening, he's going to put his tefillin on. 3 answers, where potentially 1 puts on tefillin. But my question today is not when you put on tefillin on Shabbos. When do you use tefillin, but you don't put them on Shabbos? Mishnah Bua Simen Shin Ches Seif Koten Chav Daled. We normally view tefillin as a kli shemelachto leisur. It's a muktzeh. But if you need a kli shemelachto leisur letzorech gufo or mekoimo, you need to use it for something to do with it or for its place, you can move it. Says the Mishnah Bua, for example, if you want to be metaltel them because you need them for shmira, it provides shmira. Shmira for mazikim. You're afraid there's mazikim out there? You can take that tefillin with you on Shabbos because it's considered I'm using them letzorech gufoy, a tremendous chiddush.
Even though you're preparing for another day.
I'm not. I want to be saved now from the mazikim out there, so I'm taking the tefillin on Shabbos letzorech gufo right now, not for another day. For now. We're ending with Eretz Yisrael ve'hayaki aviyacha Hashem el Eretz Aknani. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu bring you to this land, kasher nishba lecha ve'la'avosecha. That's superfluous. Why do you have to say that? The pasuk ends by saying unesan alach. Rashi is bothered. It's double language. You say ve'hayaki aviyach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring you. So why do you have to end and say unesan alach and He will give it to you? Obviously, if He's bringing you to the land, He's giving it to you. It's double language. It's redundant. So why did the pasuk double up?
He brings it for a visitor.
He is bringing you to the land in order for you not to own it. So just say the latter part. Unesan alach. You don't have to say he's going to give it to you without bringing you there. It's double language. And then Rashi is forced to say something that everybody knows that Rashi says about something else, not about this. Everybody knows the Rashi. Hayom hazeh, Hashem Elokecha metzavcha in Dvarim regarding Divrei Torah. Rashi says, "Vayu beinecha kechadashim." You should view Divrei Torah every single day as new. You should be excited. Rashi says the same thing here. Why is it double? Because not only would HaKadosh Baruch Hu bring you here, you have to get excited every single day and not to be like Yehusha's avois. Rashi says, a person inherited a lot of money. He's so excited the first week. Then he gets used to it. Everybody starts looking to him as the rich guy in town. 3 weeks later, a year later, I don't know when, he gets used to it. And Rashi says, Chas v'sholom to view Eretz Yisrael like that. You should be excited every single day when you wake up in the morning. You say, wow, I am zoiche to be in a place where Moshe and Aaron weren't zoiche. V'ayu kechadashim be'enecha. It's the same Rashi that says it about Divrei Torah, and that everybody knows to quote. It's the same Rashi, and he says the same thing about Eretz Yisrael. When the Boyani Rebbe came to Eretz Yisrael many years ago, so we came on a boat, obviously, came to Haifa, and then he took a bus to Yerushalayim. It took many hours, I think 5-6 hours back then. And the Hasidim saw that the whole time, his face is in the window and he's looking. What's he looking for? And why is he not learning? 5-6 hours, Bitul Torah. They were kind of embarrassed to ask him. But at one point, when they got to Yerushalayim, one of the Hasidim felt, I guess he was a courageous Hasid. Rebbe, what's Pshat? What about Bitul Torah? And the Boyani Rebbe looked at him and says, what are you talking about? There's a pasuk in Parashat Sekev. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says about this land, Eretz asher Hashem Elokecha doirishosa tamid. Einei Hashem Elokecha ba mireishis hashana ve'at achis shana. The eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are always gazing at this land. We have a rule. Walk in His ways. Mahu afata. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu always looks at this land, I shouldn't look at it. How excited we have to be that we're zoiche to live in Eretz Yisrael.
He said if you
when you're learning and you stop to say, wow, what a beautiful tree. He didn't stop. He landed and he started looking, wow, and he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I love you and I love your country. אחינו כל בית ישראל הנשואים בצר ובשביה. העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה ובין מתחת ליבשה in the tunnels. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Fast, יוציאים מצר על רווחה מאפילו לאור. ומשיעבוד לגאולה, אשתה בעגולו וזמן קורי ונוי מהרומן.